Hey everybody, this is Nick from Nick's Listening Space, and today we're going to take a look at the new 2025 updated Aiyima A80 integrated amplifier and DAC. Now, the original A80 came out in December of 2024, and I reviewed this guy about a month ago. So this was a device that I liked almost right away, but I think more importantly, it's one that I've really continued to appreciate, I think the more time that I've spent with it, and I think the more systems that I've paired with it as well. So, based on user feedback, Aiyima has gone ahead and made a handful of changes to this guy. Now, the updates here, they're not radical updates, as in this isn't a brand new product, but they have made some meaningful quality of life changes. And so I'll talk about those here. Now, just full disclaimer here, Aiyima was kind enough to send me this guy so that I could share these changes with you. Now, as always, this is my honest experience and my honest opinions. So think of this video as an update and a refinement to my original review, and this is not necessarily a replacement for that review. So with the updated A80 here, I think there are really three questions worth answering. And one is this device worth upgrading if you already own the A80? And number two would be, what are the actual differences between the old version and the new one? And number three is really like, how does the A80 continue to stack up long-term, against other hybrid and tube adjacent gear that I've reviewed on this channel. If you haven't seen my full review of the A80 yet, I'd recommend go watch that first before you watch this one, because this review is going to assume that you already are familiar with the A80. Now, let's just start with the part that I think nobody really enjoys. And, it's never fun to buy a product only for them to update it shortly thereafter. And so, in my case, I did just purchase the old one and just review it. And so, no more than a month or so later, they've now released some updates. And, I think this has probably happened to at least all of us, maybe once or twice in our lives. Even if it's not audio gear, there's still kind of that resentment. And so with the A80, there are two paths that I think make sense for you. Really there's option one. And option one, if you already own the original A80, Aiyima will offer a board upgrade that you can purchase and then install yourself. And this will give you all of the updated visual and functional kind of improvements. Now, what you don't get with the board swap is you don't get the one-click Bluetooth reset feature that's exclusively on the fully updated factory-built version. So the new version has a reset button in the back, and you'll notice that the older version doesn't have that. And so option two could be to just go out and purchase the brand new one. So if you already have the A80 and you'd rather not install the unit, and you'd rather just have it fresh out of the gate, like already put together, you could just purchase the brand new updated version. And so, with that being said, let's talk about the various features on this guy and really what has changed. So, first notice out of the gate is going to be a front display and UI change. The most noticeable one is you're now going to get some larger fonts and better legibility from across the room. So what you're going to get is now on the new one, there's a volume display that pops up, as well as notifications for what input you're on. In addition to that, you now get EQ features as well. So, on the standard edition, you get 3 main VU meters. You're going to get a new VU meter style on the new one as well. I guess you'd have to determine whether or not you think that that additional VU meter is worth purchasing a whole new device. But honestly, I wish that this exact meter style existed on the original A80, and it's too bad that it didn't. And so it is a welcome that it exists on the new one. Now, if you're running the A80 in a more conventional rack-based system, I think that these updates here are going to create a better improvement for this feature, because on the first one, legibility of the volume was an issue when I was sitting on the couch. Now, the last update is going to be a standby feature, and this is a really small change, but it just allows you to have customizable standby features. So instead of timing out and displaying waiting, the standby mode now just says continues to show the volume information. Now, the last feature is an update to the way that this device handles standby. So this is a really small change, but on the prior device, or the original A80, it would show a waiting displayed on the device if nothing was playing through it. So On this one now, what it will continue to show you is just the volume information so that the screen won't time out. And it's just a subtle feature that allows you to just, I guess have a little bit more customizable features or whatnot. I think that these are the kinds of changes that tell me that Aiyima is actually listening to our reviews and our feedback. And I do think that Aiyima should be commended here for trying to go out there and produce an update for this particular device, because I think it's a great device. And I do think that they probably imagined somebody at a desktop using this device. And I do think it can be utilized in a rack mount system. So having some of these more aesthetic features to make it more usable in a rack-based system, I think is welcomed here. And finally, one of the last improvements is to the remote control. So the original remote control, in my review, I stated that it was a little unintuitive or a little confusing. And I'm really happy to say that on this new updated remote, there's some more EQ controls that are built directly into the remote in addition to that. And I think this matters more to people who especially want to have something like the A80 in their main living room. I think that the new old school VU meter style just fits this device, and I think that it reinforces the A80's identity as something that really bridges, modern convenience with kind of classic hi-fi sensibilities here. Now I want to zoom out a bit here because I've been using the A80 on and off now for about 3 months, and in multiple configurations, as well as using it as an all-in-one, as a digital preamplifier of sorts, also as a pure amplifier. And while I think I initially gravitated towards using this as a digital preamplifier, I've also really come to love this guy as just a dedicated amplifier. Using this guy as a power amp, the A80 has consistently impressed me with its quality because I think that its overall sound characteristics here are forgiving. I think that it's very warm without being dull. Like, I've reviewed the Fozzy Audio ZD3 DAC. I think that that's a very warm DAC, but I also think it's very flat. I think that this has a bit of musicality here that just really works across a wide range of speakers that I've paired with it. It's an agreeable sound that I think you're going to enjoy. This is the kind of amp that doesn't punish a poor recording. Rather, it really smooths things out just enough to keep you there for long listening sessions, which I think, frankly, is really what people are gonna want. So, when we pair this with something like the T20 that I just talked about in my last video, I think that this really becomes a compelling kind of hi-fi system at this price point. I think the next question is should you upgrade? Now, I think that if you already own the A80, I don't think that this is a must upgrade situation. I think that the improvements here are real. I think the UI is better. I think the visuals are better and the usability is better. And especially in a rack-mounted system, or a shared space. You can now sit on the couch and get full control over this with a better remote and also have better legibility of what's happening on the screen. So, those improvements obviously come at a cost, and you would have to purchase the whole new board or buy the brand new one just to have those features. So, if you don't already own the A80 yet, then I think the upgraded version is simply the one to buy. Now, it's the most complete, refined version of what was already a really strong product. So at the end of the day, the A80 remains what it's always been, or what it has always been. It's compact, it's musical, it's a forgiving integrated amplifier that I think punches above its size and price. For $200, I'm pleasantly surprised here. Now, if you wanted a smooth, flexible, modern amp with just a hint of warmth, I think that this is still one of the easiest recommendations that I can make right now. If you want to go deeper, I think definitely check out my full original A80 review. And as always, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, what amp should I review next, guys? So thanks so much.